Boys. Hey, Frank.
Hey, good morning.
All right. Good morning. We are live. We got Harrison, Trade Better 99, and Frank, Old Guy REI here. So, morning, everyone.
Morning.
How you guys doing, man? How you guys, Frank? I just saw you. Seems like.
Yeah, just like yesterday. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yep.
can hear you,
Okay.
man.
Okay. Yeah,
All
last
right.
time I had to switch my microphones or something.
All right. So this is a special one because I don't really know the answer to it on how Frank does it because I invest remotely. I invest 6,000 miles away in Pittsburgh, and I'm only in one market. Frank is in how many markets? Three, four?
No, I lost count. So we're in Indiana. We picked up a place in Gary. We're in Illinois. We have a few in Missouri, one in Wisconsin. So four.
Wow.
And Harrison has one out of state, right?
Yes. One out of state.
So Frank, how the hell do you do it, man? Like,
Well, so I get teased about that a lot. And I guess from from maybe outsiders' point of view, it might seem like we just went crazy and just decided to buy a property in every state. But I think when we got started, so we're in California. I'm a contractor here in California. We don't have a ton of money. We were looking for a way to get started back in 2019. And I think at the time, I don't know how we did it, we had like $40,000 saved. So we thought, we had found bigger pockets by then, and in bigger pockets there was a turnkey promoter. Her name is Allie Boone. She still does it, but it seemed like a good way for us to get in because it was a low barrier to entry. She worked with turnkey providers in several different states, and that's why we ended up in a few states because we picked up, I think, three turnkey properties over the years, and they were each in different states. The turnkey, we went to Gary because of Millennial Mike. We just wanted to check out that market. But we started with the turnkey provider, the Olson Group, that he started with years ago. And that property's been doing pretty well. The return on it wasn't what we typically shoot for, but it's solid, and hopefully that cash on cash return will increase, over time. But then we picked up a turnkey in Illinois with a turnkey provider there. Our first property was a triplex in St. Joseph, Missouri, and that was through a turnkey provider. So I, I guess I try to explain to people that because it seems difficult to be in different markets, that's all we know. So it hasn't really been. If we had just started in one market and learned that market and stayed there for a while, I think it would have been more challenging to venture into different markets. But since that's how we started, that's what we know. So it hasn't been too crazy.
That's wild. Yeah, I was gonna ask. It's because being out of state, I was like, okay, this is kind of hard, but I think it's livable. So you're saying that you kind of had that same mentality throughout each market you go to. It's, I guess for me, it's more thinking about how do I manage since I'm going to Pittsburgh for my next spot because I mean Akron's just too hot right now, and I mean I guess that's where I'm trying to figure out is am I going to be am I going to have my attention split up too much? And I mean you have four markets, so how do you do that?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people in the group, just for basic for basically getting started, right? You want to find someone who's doing it successfully in the area. And for me, that was the turnkey promoter, Allie. What she did was she would um, make relationships with turnkey providers, and she would actually go there. So she was kind of our boots on the ground to start out. So she would go vet the companies, actually go look at properties, go look at the rehabs they were doing, see what kind of work they did. And she was always big on letting us know that turnkey providers aren't the best at communicating with investors. their business is to buy the properties and get them to the investors. So they were kind of short on the communication side, and that didn't sit well with a lot of people. But I had some trust in her. You know, I wouldn't just go there myself and pick a turnkey provider, but and through the process, you know, we've known her, like I said, since 2020, and we've had a couple instances where things didn't go the way I thought they should go, and she was definitely there fighting for us because she was bringing customers to these guys, and so she carried a little weight. So I think, you know, if you're and you know, you're venturing into Pittsburgh, you have a few people there that are already doing it successfully. So I I think you have a good you're starting out in the right direction, I guess.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those where I felt like, yeah, whatever market I was going to, I was not going to go maybe with one person or knowing a few people. I was very like I wanted to have like a team that I could trust, and this is definitely where I feel more comfortable in. And I can't believe I'm saying that, especially having family from the Cleveland area and growing up in New England. It's like Pittsburgh has always been kind of the, because watching football and everything, it's like, yeah, Steelers fans are always the enemy for us, and so it's kind of funny that everyone's really friendly and everyone's nice. So it's just don't talk about football. So, so
All right, so we have a lot of people tuning in so far. So I don't know who paired their channel. I'm not sure which one of you, but we got Jason here. We got Val. What's up, Val? And yeah, I don't know. Did you pair your channel, Frank?
I tried it for
All
the
right,
first time.
so you're
Yeah.
bringing all the riffraffs, I think. So there
It
is
was,
a Justin Heather from your channel. Looks like sexy chocolates. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. We got Andy. But yeah, and I put Frank's YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed, go check it out. And Flavio's here. So good morning, everyone. Jim's at Deal Champs. So yeah, this is a good one. Like I said, I invest 6,000 miles away. So I invest in Pittsburgh, and we hear it quite a bit. A lot of people have gone through different property managers. I think Zuber's been through 4 or 5. So lumberjack folks don't care for property managers very much. And Frank, you're in multiple markets, right? And I think you probably don't have one property manager, because I'm sure your manager is not going to be managing all these different areas. And I think, have you had to go through quite a bit? Have you had to fire a lot of different How has it been with your property management search, and maybe what questions or criteria do you have for them?
yeah. So we do have 4 different property managers. We have replaced 2 that we originally started with. The first one on the triplex, it was our first property that we picked up in 2021, and I had gone with a PM company that my mom used in Texas. It was a franchise, and she had had good success with them there. But they were in Kansas City, and our property was too far away. It was like 45 minutes away, so they weren't getting there on a regular basis, for maintenance or to show the property. We got the property vacant, and we actually had to hang on to that one for probably 3 or 4 months, paying the mortgage ourselves, because they couldn't place tenants, and just it was a stroke of luck that I had started filling out an application and getting some information on other property management companies in the area, and they started asking for some information that I don't know why, but I wasn't comfortable moving forward, so I stopped the application. But I guess it went far enough that it caught the eye of that property manager, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I noticed you started filling this out. Is there something I can help you with?" And I let him know the situation, and he was about 20 minutes away from the property, and before we had even signed up with him, he's like, "Well, let me go take a look at the property, see what it's like, see if I can help you." And it was like January. It was like couple feet of snow on the ground, and he was out there looking at the place, and he came back and he said, it looks like a nice property. I think you can do well with it, and I think I can manage it for you. So we fired the other ones that day and hired him, and he had the place filled within a month. And it's our relationship with him has been really great. He's probably our favorite property manager of the group, but the property itself has had a few challenges, but I haven't had challenges with him. And the other one that we ended up firing was the one in Milwaukee on our duplex. Their fees and everything was just getting out of hand, and the communication was not great. And luckily, when we went to the ORAT event the first year in Vegas with Zuber, we met Justin Cambra, and at the Denny's meetup, the midnight Denny's meetup, he sat next to me and we were talking, and through the conversation realized that he had several properties in Milwaukee, and he referred us to his property management company. So we switched to them about 7 or 8 months ago, and things are much better. So just, I guess, the power of networking has really saved us in a few instances.
Dude, Frank, your channel is bringing in some riffraffs in the chat, but I do want to say morning to Joe in line 4. He says no cleavage on this live. I'm leaving. Yeah, sorry, man. Today's one is no clicks for cleavage or cleavage for clicks. We'll work on that for next week. But Dylan's here. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, Casey, it's been a while, man. Good morning, man. And then Kyle's your blue collar landlord. Haven't seen him in a bit. I'm sure he's working. But Jason does have a question for you, Frank. It says, Frank, have you seen your oldest property cash flow ride over the years? Maybe rise over the rise over the years.
We haven't really seen a huge increase in cash flow, and because it took us a while to stabilize it, I think, Mark, you and I were talking a little bit ago about the challenges we've had. So that first property that we bought and lessons that we're learning is it was originally a big Victorian home that got converted over the years into 3 apartments. So one of the big challenges was it only had 1 furnace, and the tenants in unit A controlled the heat for all the units. And that was a big problem. So this in 2024, we put a lot of money into the building, put in mini splits. So each unit has their own heating and cooling. And we rehabbed the 2 upstairs units and helped them. We modernized them, I guess, to help them compete with other rentals in the area. So now it's full. It's been full for probably the last 8 months, and cash flow has been consistent. And that's something we hadn't seen in the first, couple of years. So that's a blessing. So I guess we haven't seen cash flow rise, but we are getting consistent cash flow. So that's big improvement for us there.
So Harrison, I know, like we touched on earlier, you have one out of state. I mean, how has your experience been with your property manager, and could you imagine being in multiple markets like Frank's doing right now?
So yes, my property manager, I think I interviewed 6 or 7. I was really picky, and it went from one property manager saying, "I don't do anything. I just go collect the rent and knock on the doors." I was like, "That's it." Yep. And then up to where the one that I worked with, and my realtor actually knows some of the owning management on it. They have been really great with the turn. I don't want to say it was more of like a ready to go service, and right off the bat, it was a little bit more expensive, but I mean, they help with, the 2 o'clock calls. They make sure I get updates all the time. It's in AppFolio format, so it's all my stuff is ready to go, which makes my life a lot easier. And to the point of where I'm almost going to say I'm a little on the spoiled side, because as owners, we all know that we have to manage the manager sometimes. We just got to make sure that things are getting done, But I mean, for me being just a one owner, they're still very responsive and they remember me, which is great. So, and to your point of going to the next market, that's where I'm going to be like, oh, well, I have this great experience. Is it going to be like this in Pittsburgh? I don't know. So, it's one of those that I have to say I got very lucky on the first house in Akron, and I mean that's why I'm still looking, and I would be using this. I mean, Frank, to your point, it's like they're in the next town about 30 minutes away, but they have enough business in Akron that they're pretty regularly, so it didn't bother them at all. Um, but I mean, it's one of those is that it goes again to all right. I get the place in Pittsburgh. Am I going to try and self manage it again, like, or am I going to? I don't know. It's something that's I'm playing with right now.
So you are pivoting a little bit, looking at in Pittsburgh. Is the plan to either stay in two markets if you do get something in Pittsburgh, or is the plan you're gonna maybe 1031 or sell off the one in Akron and go all in Pittsburgh? So what is the long-term vision?
It's a great question. I mean, honestly, I'm planning on staying in two markets. That was the idea. Akron's only I think an hour and a half away from Pittsburgh, so it's not the end of the world. I mean, they're just close enough to where if I need to go visit the properties, it's not too bad. It's only an 8-hour drive for me, so it's not the end of the world. But it's I think I as far as the Akron house is going, it's above zero. It's cash flowing decently enough. It's just like Pittsburgh, most of the properties are value add, so I just have to be very careful on what I get. So that's the thing.
Well, first, before I bring up Andy's question, you said 8 hours. So you're willing to drive 8 hours to see your property, but you wouldn't drive 6 hours to come to Winston Salem to see me and Val and Andy.
I know.
And
Yeah. Well, so let me. So I'm hoping my daughter is going to be older. Right now, my daughter is at every 2-hour feeds, and so it's like that second hour, it's like, oh, I'm stopping and feeding. I know. Grace and I were really fun though. We couldn't come see you because
it was fun though. It was fun. But Andy says he just watched Frank's interviews with Lindsay and Harrison this morning, and he talked about being hard for him being a contractor and not being able to touch it. Could he elaborate more on what helped? Because I think that is something Andy is kind of struggling with, investing remotely. So he is in Ohio. I think seems like that is the biggest struggle for him, is being at a distance if he's going to go further for his properties.
Yeah, I would definitely say. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, that's my issues. That
I was just going to say, yeah, in the beginning, it was tough. And I mentioned some challenges that Ali helped us with. So when we buy a turnkey, obviously we can still get our own inspections and things like that. The properties are supposed to be rehabbed, and they don't always do the same thing to every property. If a roof has, 5 to 7 years left on it, they'll leave it. I was always big on getting ones that had new roofs. But then when we got down to the point where we were getting our inspections and the walkthroughs, the quality of the workmanship wasn't what I expected. It's not how I did it. And so that was a challenge. We passed on a few deals because of that. The most recent turnkeys that we bought were, I guess, up to par as far as I was concerned, but it was since we had Ali as a backup, I was confident that what we ended up buying would be a good investment. And back then, they were still, it was still common for the turnkey providers to place a tenant before the investor took the property over. So that was really appealing too. But it's still a challenge for me not to be able to, well, I shouldn't say not be able to. I could get there. But it would take time away from my business here in California. So I'm losing money on my business and spending money to get there. So that's been a challenge. But I think once you find good people to work with, and I've been pretty lucky in the St. Louis area because our property manager there has been okay with me finding other contractors to do things because he has a good team, but they have a lot of properties, so they're sometimes too busy to get to us right away. So I've had to go out, and I think I found a really good guy to work with, and we get progress pictures and things like that. He's really communicative. He understands, or I should say, I understand what he's talking about. And I think just the fact that I know what I'm talking about as far as remodeling goes, he kind of has come to respect that a little bit. On this most recent one, we walked through. I let him know what brand of LVP I like to use, what colors of paint I would like to use, light fixtures. They always pop in these cheap ones that still take incandescent light bulbs, and I'm like, no, let's put something LED in there that you were never going to have to touch again. And he was cool with it. So I've been lucky there. And going back to what Harrison was saying before about looking for PMs, I think it's a good thing to have boots on the ground. Like you're saying, in Pittsburgh, you have other investors, you can get referrals for property managers, but sometimes even if it's a good referral from someone, your personalities might not mesh. So I think we have to be careful not to hold the person accountable that sent us their name, because maybe the person that sent them to you had lower expectations than you do. So I guess if Mark sends you referrals, just double, triple vet them, because you never know.
Well, to clarify, that's why I always send them to Mikey. I go talk to Mikey. Mikey is the technician, so I wing a lot of things. So go talk to Mikey. You'll get a better breakdown. But definitely, and you kind of touched on it, Frank. Getting referrals and whatnot. So that's the one thing too. Like, if someone is interested in Pittsburgh, I don't ever only give them one resource. I don't tell them this is the person that you need to work with. Like I think Harrison, I say, hey, reach out to Alex, reach out to Jeremy, and kind of see who fits your personality better, and then one might relate to you a lot better. So that's what we're kind of doing in Pittsburgh. Yeah. So Chester, you're looking for the wrench, but you were actually paired from Frank's channel. So, but thanks for popping. I see you popping in on my side now. But yeah, so we got Hyder here stopping by. Thanks, Hyder. Dylan is here. We'll get Dylan on maybe next week. Try to get another live with Dylan. But let's see. I like Frank's communication comment. Construction talk is another language. Actually, since we are touching on that real quick, I did. I never brought it up on a live yet. I don't know if you saw someone who posted it. Craig Kamen posted it in school. He was talking about how he's going away from LVP flooring, and he's seeing a lot more people posting videos and things like that. Like, I guess he found a lot of people are finding moisture and mold under LVP. And so he said he's going to go back to carpet and things like that. So what's your thoughts on that, maybe, Frank?
I did see that post, and I guess it does bring up some concern because tenants don't always care, and I think my biggest area would be in the bathroom, because people getting in and out of the shower, not closing the shower curtain, and water getting on the floor. If water gets under there, unless you hear it squishing around, the LVP isn't going to get damaged, right? It's waterproof. So I've been thinking about that over the few days. And since you just mentioned it, I guess I might go back to an actual tile floor. Obviously, I mean, I have seen carpet in bathrooms. I don't think that's what he meant, but in kitchens, I'm still good with it in kitchens. I think the biggest area there of concern would be right in front of the kitchen sink. Unless you spill a pot of water or something, I don't think there's a big chance that water's going to get under there. If the home has issues from the underside, if vapors if it's a concrete foundation, or if there's flooding under the house and that vapor rises, I imagine you could get a little bit of mold or mildew underneath the LVP. In the most recent St. Louis property that we're kind of fixing up, we are doing LVP in the bathrooms and the kitchen. So I guess we'll see if that becomes an issue, but that was the first time I had heard about that. But I guess it could have been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, I think Craig also posted a link to a video, a YouTube video, and it was about, I forget what, they might have been on the floor or something, but I think they're flooring guys, but they were talking about it. And their other concerns was, I guess, the harmfulness long-term health-wise from LVP flooring. And they're talking about how, like, this many years down the road, you're probably going to see a lot of these claims or lawsuits against this LVP flooring for hazard or health issues, and that is kind of their concern and their viewpoint on it. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that. But if anyone out there wants to see that video, message me and I'll give you the link, because I don't think I can find it right now. But Hyder says carpet in a bathroom is just weird. who thought that would be a great idea? Yep. And Chester says, I didn't know. Oh, yep, that's Ray. So Ray is going to be coming out with a YouTube channel, I believe. We're putting him on the spot, so that's something he's going to be working on. But let's see who else is here. Did I miss anyone? Yeah, we got Adam, the beatboxer from Frank's channel, looks like. Yeah, everyone's here. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Yes, I know this is early. People got a lot of stuff to do on the weekend. But yeah, we want to catch up. Me and Frank did a little interview before this. I said, hey, let's jump on a live and we can talk about. I think that's a lot of people are looking at the markets differently now, right? I think a lot of markets like Texas, Florida are having a hard time finding deals that work. So people are, I think, even, I don't know if Jen's here, but I saw Kenny's name. But I think even they're looking for maybe other markets to invest where the numbers make sense. And I think people are wondering how someone like Frank is in so many different markets and how he makes it work. So I think a lot of people are curious about that. And like you said, it's not easy, right, Frank? It's not easy. But just like anything, you figured out how to make it work. And what is the long-term vision though for it? Do you think you're going to keep everything separate? Is there a plan to consolidate? Like even Brian Adamson, I don't know if you saw that video with Zuber, he's talking about selling all his real estate. So what would be the end goal or long-term vision for how to form your portfolio, I guess?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned on a few other videos that we've had a lot of challenges. I think this is our fourth solid year since we restarted, and we've had a lot of issues. And actually, Cynthia is the one that's kept my head in the game, because there was a couple times I was like, maybe we should just sell this, take our money and run. But she brought up a good point that we hadn't even really given the portfolio a chance yet. And we bought 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. So all those are still fairly new. So even though we've put up quite a bit of money into them, a lot of people would say that's pretty stupid, pouring good money after bad or whatever they might say. But now that I can see things are stabilizing, the first half of the properties that we put money into are stable now. Like half the portfolio is actually stable. So we can see that it's going to work, because you go through crazy thoughts like, did I buy the wrong asset? Did I buy in the wrong place? And those kinds of things I've mentioned before. And moving forward, I think, and Dion teases me about that a lot. He's like, just pick a market and stick with it, will you? It's like, and Zuber too. He's like, don't get too diversified before you even get started. If something's working in an area, just hang with it and give it some time. And we've heard that over the last few months too. It's just give it some time. And even though real estate has changed a lot since some of our mentors got in. Time is still like the biggest benefit, I think. So I think we're going to try to get everything stabilized and see how it works. And you and I, Mark, talked a little bit before about options. You know, we have a lot of options because we got started again that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So, and I think those options will be even better and better as time goes on. So in a couple of years, we'll be able to see, you know, should we sell this and maybe buy, because we've been buying, I would say, Class C, maybe lower Class C to start with. But, you know, you hear people talking about maybe paying off the properties and having no debt and greater cash flow, or selling it and buying it in a better neighborhood or something like that. So, and you, I guess I'll say affectionately tease us about our age. We don't have a lot of time for appreciation to kick in, right? So we're all about cash flow right now. It's just you have to be a little bit smarter if you're going for cash flow, because you can get great cash flow in a D class area, but I wouldn't go there.
You were referring to Harrison teasing you about your age, right? Not,
I think everybody might.
well, you know, we kind of joked about it well, I don't know if you saw it, but I was joking with Harrison about the topic for today. You know, it's kind of about, it's kind of like dating, right? Or managing your multiple side pieces, right? I don't know if Cynthia's in the background, but right, you're right now you're trying to figure out your what works for you, what market you might like best. But you're just giving yourself options to what's going to work and how you're going to consolidate, or but you're trying to see which market suits you better. And like you kind of touched on, I think people know you may not stay in California also, right? That you have visions of maybe retiring somewhere else. But Hyder also says, yeah, we know Cynthia is the mastermind. Yeah, and I think boss is the better word. But Andy, but Andy says we all know who we have to keep happy.
Yeah, those are all true statements, I think. And I think over the last couple of years, you're getting a little safer, because if Cynthia knows you're going to be on, she tries to be way, way far away. So because you do make her blood boil sometimes. You bring out the teacher in her, I should say.
You're talking about Harrison again, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Chester says owning rentals seems akin to planting fruit trees. Got to give them a little bit of time to grow. Yeah. Hey, Landlord Odyssey is here, man. What's up, Rayon? Long time, man. How you been? It's been a while.
Yeah, I would definitely follow up with that. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, it was one of those where I feel like as wild as the market has been going, I was telling Frank that sometimes, I mean, with as popular as the Akron market has gotten, I'm like, hey, I'll just sell out. Let's just, let's sell now. Sell now. I mean, I don't think I would really get a great return, even though it's doing well. I mean, for me, it's compared to the stock market, this has forced me to sit down and say, okay, let's just let it go a few years. Let's see what happens. And just, I don't know, wait for the rents to just kind of slowly grow up, because I purposely kept mine a little lower since I inherited tenants, and I just kind of bringing it up to market and also fixing up the house at the same time. So, but that's one of those things that, yeah, I guess I was going to ask you, Frank, since you have been fixing up the places, do you think it really, have you really, like, for markets, is it different on how much you fix up compared to maybe just leaving as is, like seeing more cash flow?
I think in the portfolio that we've been able to build to date, all the areas are kind of similar as far as that goes. I mean, we wouldn't. We have kind of upgraded, if you can call it an upgrade, our kitchen countertops in a couple units to butcher block instead of Formica. I don't really like Formica, but I wouldn't say that they're quartz neighborhoods.
No,
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah. And so I tell our property managers, I want to make them as nice as possible for the area. And I've always wanted to make them nice enough if we ever had to go there and live, if something crazy happened, because and that's, I guess, one of the things. The triplex mortgage is $900. So if I needed to go live somewhere cheap, I could go live there in one of the units, and the other two would still pay the rent or pay the mortgage, right? And that's the same thing across the board. I think our highest mortgage is that the one in Milwaukee. It's a duplex, and that one is $1,700 a month for the pity, and the rents are $3,400. So one unit there will almost pay the mortgage. So that's a nice thing about small multifamily for sure. But small multifamily doesn't work across all markets either, right? Sometimes single families are a better investment. So you made me think earlier about just everything that we've learned to this point, and you mentioned the thought of selling and just living off what you make. But a lot of people think, oh, the property came up, 50,000, let's sell it, we'll have 50 grand. But after you pay the agents, after you pay the taxes, after you pay for any depreciation recapture that you might have gained, you might end up with nothing. So
Yeah.
you got to be careful about that.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point because, that's the other reason why I was going to Pittsburgh as well, is that worst case scenario, if I have to live in one of the units, it's not that far and have a good network there already. So, yeah, I like the
See, you
idea.
guys got me in trouble. Cynthia is tuning in from Instagram. So
Oh,
she
goodness.
said she's here. Um, she said she heard me. So, but she did say she missed me. So I did screenshot that. So just letting you know, Cynthia, I screenshot that to blackmail you later on that you
Oh,
did say that.
you better hang on to that one, Mark.
Uh, but yeah, let's see. Chester says, "What's wild? I know Detroit is appreciating. Prices are almost 50% above what they were at this time last year. In some areas, yes, yeah, some markets are still doing really well. And I think maybe Harrison can. He's probably looking at the Pittsburgh market a little more than me, being a little more active. I mean, what are you seeing when you're looking for stuff right now in Pittsburgh?
So Pittsburgh's interesting because I would say the turnkeys are going relatively fast, but a lot of the market is value add. And so a lot of, I would say, newer landlords or those that are trying to, I think, find something easy, they're having a hard time. So what's nice is that you're seeing prices go down, but the unfortunate thing is that you know that you're going to be spending a lot of money on it. Yep.
Cynthia wanted to clarify she didn't say how much, so I'm not going to screenshot that part.
Maybe she thought she was sending that to Harrison.
No, could be. Yeah. Hey, you know what? It could be. It could be. But yeah. But yeah, I think like you touched on the Pittsburgh market is it actually kind of is a little bit boring. It's kind of a safe market. I think the one thing everyone that does reach out, I kind of tell them a few things you do got to get maybe used to or whatnot is there is a lot of older homes and maybe the basement. I mean, for me, that was probably the most eye-opening thing or in Hawaii we don't have basements or something you kind of got to get comfortable with, but that's a few things, but every market has their challenges, right? I think some places it's cost, it's expensive like California, Hawaii. Some it's going to be the insurance, property taxes, whatnot. But yeah, Pittsburgh is a pretty stable market. I think Lars is under contract right now, so Lars has pivoted. He's just waiting on a sewer scope to kind of, and so that's the one thing too. The sewer scope is very critical in Pittsburgh. So anyone going to invest in Pittsburgh, I definitely recommend getting a sewer scope. So that's what Lars is waiting on right now. There was something that you did have your agent look at, right? So Jeremy was on yesterday, maybe, or a couple of days ago, the live. So Jeremy is a rockstar agent broker in Pittsburgh who's been working with Harrison and Lars and some other folks. But he went to go check out the property that you were interested in, and how did that kind of work out?
So it was interesting. It's one of those. It was up in Butler. So Jeremy knows the area really well, and he was telling me about it. Small duplex, and there was it looked very promising. I mean, it's right near healthcare center, which I know I work in healthcare, so it's like an area that I know my lane. So I knew what kind of tenants to look for. Hard part about it was that it was a much older home, I think 1910, and it's one of those where it's got a lot of customization to it. And I don't know if it would fall under being up to code for some parts, but what I liked about it was that there was some wiggle room in there for fixing it up. Unfortunate area thing, and this is something that I've learned more about the Pittsburgh area, is that you got to watch your flood zones. Um, and this was in a lower portion of it, and so you could see the area around it, and it wasn't really the house itself, but if you looked around at the other areas, you could see that the lower decks were rotted out. And so it was one of those like, oh, there's a lot of flooding that goes through here. So that's why we're passing on it. And it's great because also Jack, who was on the other day as well, he has a lot of really good insight of that area. And so he was like, there's other places that you can get for bigger bang for your buck. And so that was also been really helpful talking to him about that.
All right, so on to the next one for you then, right? Or is there something else you're looking at? But Chester says, would anything make you guys change plans from a broader macroeconomic standpoint, like a recession or a trade war, hypothetically speaking, of course? You want to go first, Frank? Anything you're changing based on? I know you don't try to get caught up in it as much as maybe me and Harrison, or maybe even me just making trouble on social media, but are you changing course on anything, or are you kind of just staying, just doing what you're doing every day?
No, I think fortunately being involved in this group, and we have Zuber's daily financial news. I really rely on him and his opinion of the economy. It's kind of like they were teasing about how so many people in the stock market were jumping ship and selling, when things dropped. But just from being around the group, being able to stay calm and see what's going to happen, because since the new administration has been in place, and I'm not political in any way, but over the years, I've kind of just seen what took place, who got into office, and then you make your plan. And for me, it was just a plan to survive after, with the new changes and things like that. So I think I'm taking that stance. I wouldn't, if we saw a good deal today, I wouldn't hesitate in picking it up. And I always go back to making sure you have enough reserves, because that could really help you if things in the world change a little bit and you need a little bit of extra cash to get you through it. Yeah, but if you have that, I think, and like the guys were talking about yesterday, I think it was about, or maybe it was a couple of days ago, about rates being 10%, they would still invest the same way. You find a good deal and you go for it. I follow another person, if it's okay for me to mention him. His name's Aaron Chapman, and he's a lender. And one thing that I like about him, I consider him like the biker Michael Zuber. He's got a long beard. He looks like a biker dude, but he's super smart. He always has great information. He looks at the market. He does videos every Tuesday, and he's always just encouraged the same thing. If you find a good deal, don't wait. Too many people are on the sidelines, and they've been there forever.
Yeah, I'll follow up with that because I'll say my mortgage percentage is 8.1%, and I'm cash flowing. It's one of those. It's you just, and following up with what Chester's saying is that the market could trade in different positions. There could be lots of losses of potential steals, or potential deals. And so my goal is really just to look. What people are willing to work with, and so I'm really looking into more, what's it called, seller financing deals, if they're willing to maybe budge on some other positions. And that's really, it helps us think differently, because 2020, I felt like that was probably where I was my peak scared. And then I realized, by the end of it, I was like, I'm being ridiculous. Things are life's gonna go on. We're all still gonna be here, so let's act like it. Like what Dion says, it's like we're gonna be here in 5 years. Invest like it. So that's really what's helped me feel a lot better about this upcoming. If you want to say turmoil, it's okay. I'm fine with that. But I feel a lot more at ease about this. I mean, even I'm still putting stuff into my stocks, or I'm selling out, or like just making sure I have enough cash for whatever happens next. And I'm really excited about it.
All right, hold on. We got some questions coming in, but Cynthia
my.
has. So this is breaking news. Cynthia is throwing out. She says, "You use the market as a tool, not as a driver to what you do." Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to connect with her. She sounds pretty smart.
Yeah. Watch out. Yeah. She's feisty though. Watch out.
Does she have a handle? Does she have a channel or something where we could reach out to her?
I don't know. She has a funny. It's Contreras 98 or something. I don't know. Cynthia. Yeah. But we have someone from Frank's channel, Rosanna M. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, also the one Harrison's channel. But any advice for a new out-of-state investor? You want to go first, Frank?
I would just say to jump in to as many, well, I shouldn't say as many investing groups as possible. I would make sure that you get into the one rental at a time community, because all of the people in there are just in there to help everybody and share. And, we've been really open about our journey and trying to share mistakes and lessons so that we can help other people and avoid them. I was going to chat with you, Mark, too, about this in our interview. But when somebody new jumps in and maybe they don't have a property yet, or they have one, or like Rosanna says she's new, I get really excited about being able to help them, because I never expected to be in a position where I had where I could help anybody, I guess I should say. But I would just get in there, ask lots of questions, let us know where you live and where you invest, and there's a good chance that we know other people in your area that are investing in the same place, so you can get other people that are knowledgeable in the market that you're investing in to help you succeed there.
Yeah, I agree there. And yeah, I mean, and Rosanna, I'm in my first year. I just finished my first year with my first rental. So it's one of those things I would not be able to provide as, more in-depth advice as Frank and Mark. But I can tell you, it's like, hey, this is what the first year might feel like. This is what I had to do. This is what I would do better. This is what I think worked well. And I might have stumbled onto it. And I mean, yeah, that's the great thing about the ORAC community, is that we're all different levels, and we have different perspectives, and I've really come to appreciate that, because I've been in other groups as well that you kind of realize that they're just trying to compete with you, or that maybe it's you don't really feel that camaraderie that the ORAC group does. So
BuzzTune says, got a quote for flood insurance, yes, on a duplex. So BuzzTune is Mikey. He's also in Hawaii, but he invests in Pittsburgh. So he says, got a flood insurance quote on a duplex just to check, $2,400. Rosanna says she looks like she's in New York looking to invest in SC. So I'm assuming South Carolina, not Southern California. And yes, South Carolina is amazing. I was actually, I drove to, that's where I went. I went to Buc-ee's. I can promote Buc-ee's again. Buc-ee's is amazing if you haven't been there. But that's my new favorite place. But anyways, I spend a decent amount of time in North Carolina. That's where my son's mom is from Asheville, North Carolina. So I actually went down to Augusta, Georgia, to see some friends, and then we drove to South Carolina to go to Buc-ee's. And Hunter Gore, who's in the school communities in South Carolina, he came up to see me in Asheville, hang out. But yeah, South Carolina, I actually was interested in that market. There's a lot of great areas like Greenville. That's where Coach Carson, I think, primarily invests, but he's in the South Carolina market. So yeah, if you're interested in I would definitely maybe look into Coach Carson. That's kind of his backyard, South Carolina market. But there is a lot of great markets out there, out of state. The one thing with South Carolina, I do know they have higher taxes for out of state investors. So that's something you have to keep in mind. And they do have, it's very popular. So the market has gone up quite a bit. But yeah, reach out to, I don't know what communities you're in or who you follow, but definitely the One Rental at a Time community, Coach Carson, you'll find a lot of people there that will probably help you. But yeah, you can reach out to any of us and, we can maybe point you in the right direction or give you our experience. But I definitely think my one thing is just, get started, get around people that are doing it, and find kind of your comfort level. But definitely the hardest part is getting over that initial hump. And I always kind of related, and maybe Harrison can agree now, but he had a child recently, but I always relate it to having a child. A lot of people, when they find out the child's on the way, they start reading all these parenting books and how to raise a kid and do all these things, and you read all these books, and then once the child is born, it's like, oh, everything's out the window. Everything what you just it's survival mode, and you're just trying to figure it out, right? You're just trying to figure it out and make sure this child survives. And at the end of the day, that's the best you can do a lot of times. And and it's just learning. You're just going to learn as you go, and then you're going to keep getting better at it. But I think that's what I related to is getting ready for that first child. And you do read, and you kind of maybe overcomplicate things a little bit. And but yeah, reach out to any of us, and we'll definitely give you our input. Andy says, since Harrison opened my eyes to graph. Hey, wait, I thought I mentioned that too, man. Come on.
You did?
Oh.
Yeah.
But it's been giving me, yeah. So I sent Andy all kind of AI images of chickens, fighting chickens and everything too. Andy's scared of chickens. He hates chickens. But it's giving me insurance estimates with the property. Also, you can add the MLS listing number, and it gives you pretty good summary. Yeah.
Yep.
So there was someone I also met at the ORAD event. He's in the Pennsylvania market, but that's what he does. He gets different insurance quotes from different companies, and he basically, because you can, I don't know if Grok can, but I know ChatGPT can upload the PDFs. He can upload files, so he'll upload different insurance quotes and say, kind of give me the pros and cons of each insurance quote. Maybe what should I be looking for? What should I need to increase or whatnot? And then that's how he compares different policies. But yeah, AI, if you're not using AI, you are going to really fall behind. And I think, I
You're
don't know if you
right.
guys follow Tom, how do you say his name? Tom Bailu. I don't know if you guys follow him, Impact
No.
Theory. But I love his content, but he was talking about like China. I believe they are making it mandatory, I think, in schools for 6-year-olds now to start using AI or learning AI.
Wow.
And that's kind of a big topic. Some people are like, that's too young to start, but it's like, um, AI is so helpful and useful. And he was even talking about how to not raise his children using it, but almost like how you can tailor maybe how you structure, how you want to help your child learn. Like if you can put in prompts of like, my child has these tendencies or reacts to certain things this way or whatnot, then it can almost prompt you to how well your child, maybe this learning, it would be better to promote it this way, or this is how they're going to learn better. And so that's how he's also looking at it, to where it's just another way to help figure out how to, and it's not, like you said, it's not one size fits all teaching, right? So you can figure out which is the best way to maybe help your child learn better, that fits them. Hey, Corby Carter. Hey, Misfits. How's it going? He's coming in from Frank's channel. So Tom Billieu. Yep. So Chester knows who that is. Yeah, I love his stuff. But kind of going back to maybe, why are you putting that in there, Frank?
Did that go to you?
That went into
Yeah.
that private chat
Where does that go?
on my
Just to you
screen.
guys?
Yeah.
It goes on your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
you,
was gonna trying to put it in the regular chat. I was just gonna let Rosanna know that she
okay.
can reach
You want me
out.
to put it in there? Oh, Rosanna's on your channel. So if anyone is on Frank's side, she paired in from your channel. Okay, so Rosanna, if you're still there, Frank is putting in his email on his channel. You can reach out to him. But kind of going back to Chester's question, as far as if we have a trade war or whatever you want to call it, a recession, as far as for me, I'm not really changing what I'm doing. I mean, maybe you're going to be a little bit more due diligent or responsible and less risky. But as far as for real estate, I'm not really changing much. I'm not, um, and I'm sticking with Pittsburgh. I'm always looking at North Carolina and stuff. Even Tennessee, I'm looking at for future stuff. But I mean, as far as Pittsburgh is where I'm kind of focusing on. But I did have a question for Harrison, who's more into stocks, and I just it's something I started thinking about. But I know a lot of people, when the market tanked and went back up, it
Mhm.
is very volatile, and you see a lot of people upset at the policies and tariffs and whatnot and trying to blame that. But I look at it as a lot of traders are upset, right? Because there's so much
Right.
volatility and uncertainty. Do traders bring any value to the market in a sense? Like I know maybe capital wise, they're putting money into
Mhm.
the markets, but is there any actual value that a trader is bringing?
So I guess the way I would say it is that they are more of the heartbeat of the economy. So traders are willing to be more risky if they feel like that there's better chances for returns. So meaning that they're going to see on how sales are doing, on how what companies are growing, what are they innovating in. So that's really where it's almost saying like it's the lifeblood. So blood on itself outside has no value, but when it's inside the market, it's actually pumping everything. So it's when one company is doing really well, traders go that way. So it's like Tesla's been doing really well with the cars, the AI, the full self driving went up. I mean, and then when you have competitors like Amazon and everyone, they're going up, and I mean, and you're just kind of seeing what's happening right now. That's where the traders really are. I would say what you're saying, the value. Would you say that if there's making poor decisions? Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, and unfortunately, like with the way it's going up right now, I think everyone's just trying to figure out how everything's going to end. Yeah, I mean, as far as the trade wars are going to continue, are they going to go down? Um, I was listening to a channel this morning, ticker symbol U, and just talking about how the highest the market has been. Usually, when like the S&P and Nasdaq are at their highest, usually by October, that's where the depression levels hit. So, not financial advice on that, but it's been very interesting, kind of figuring out what's going on with the market.
All right, that brought a lot of questions or comments in here. Hold on, I gotta catch up. First, Chester was asking how far Astro is from Jacksonville, North Carolina. It's about 375 miles, ChatGPT says. It's about a 6-hour drive. But it says, okay, since the Western PA Accountability Group, mainly Harrison, opened my eyes to grow. Okay, so he is giving me some credit. Flavio, thanks for always tuning in, man. Flavio is a regular. Not I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if he enjoys the information or just the banter. But he's in Grandview, Washington. He said, if Frank wants to move to Washington, I will show him the market. Chester says, interestingly, yes, price discovery. Oh, question for Frank and Harrison. Ray says, would love to hear both of your guys' thoughts on cash flow or equity goals. Do you plan to just keep going, or is there a goal you plan to reach?
Harrison, you could take that one first.
Okay. So for me, it's right now, being in my 30s, it's like I'm just going for the ride. I'm seeing how much I can grow. I mean, maybe on the way, so I'm being a little bit maybe more defensive or a little more risk averse on what I do. But on the other hand, I mean, my goal is just to, goal one is to make sure that I can replace, my wife's cash flow or W-2. See if I can retire her or if she wants to just work on the side. And then eventually get to our point of where our entire monthly costs are done. And that way we can work as we want and just kind of save the rest. And then by that point, it's kind of saying, well, we're not big spenders or anything. We maybe just take a few more trips here and there, or spend more time with our daughter. That's really what we're doing.
So we can tell Harrison is, he is younger. That's why he has the straight bill on his cap, and
Yep.
mine is bent. So that is how we can tell the different ages and gaps. Um, but Frank, going back to Ray's question, do you plan to just keep going, or is there a goal you plan to reach?
Well, first, I was going to say I don't have a hat because I hear it makes your hair fall out more. And I barely have enough to hang on to right now. But yeah, thanks, Ray, for the question. And obviously, you know, we're older. Cynthia and I are older. We're further along in our journey. There's a lot of things that come into play because Mark and I were talking earlier about kind of the reverse house hacking thing. And I think, Ray, we kind of touched on it before too. But we're thinking, Mark mentioned we're considering leaving California, taking our equity, and hopefully being able to buy something in Washington to get rid of our mortgage, which is our biggest expense right now. And Mark was talking earlier. I think you actually researched what you would get at 62 from Social Security. With what Cynthia and I would get and the small portfolio that we have right now, I think, and my goal would be just to be able to meet our expense requirements monthly and be able to set aside a little bit each month. I think that's where I would love to be. And there's still a chance that we'll be able to pick up a couple more properties, but we've also had the discussion before about when we start this journey and we calculate our monthly needs. We came up with like a $6,000 monthly nut, as they call it. Mm-hmm. And for us, investing and hoping to get $200 positive cash flow per door, we would have needed 30 properties. I mean, that's the basic math. But when you're into it for 5 or 7 or whatever years, and you've been able to increase your cash flow, maybe at the end of 5 or 7 years, you don't need 30 anymore. Maybe you just can do with 20. So that's one thing I like to keep my eye on and shoot for. But yeah, and like Harrison said, we don't really travel. We like to be home, together, and it would be nice to take a trip here or there if we can do that. And like Flavio said, I would like to meet Flavio. I don't think we've spoken in person or actually on Zoom or anything, but it would be great to meet you. And we are planning on making a trip up to Washington. I had the opportunity to go up there last year. Cynthia hasn't been, so I'd like to. Well, she wants to see where I'm dragging her to, so I think I need to get her approval first.
No comment on that, but but yeah, Flavio, I know he's on Facebook quite a bit, so yeah, I know Frank's on there, so you guys can maybe connect. But Flavio, also, if you haven't done so yet, go subscribe to Frank and Harrison's YouTube channels. Also, BuzzTune has a question. He says, when you reach time freedom, what would an ideal week look like for you? Frank is going to be drinking his Coronas, or what do you primarily drink, Frank?
Yeah, typically it's just the old standby Corona premiums. I think a week for me would, I don't know. I really enjoy woodworking. I like just tinkering around the house. to me, that's ideal. I think one of the biggest things that I see in my um, uh, I guess one of the things I look forward to most is not having the Sunday blues, because I talked before about how we sleep really well on Friday night and Saturday night because there's nothing you're committed to like Monday. But then Sunday, about for me, it always happens about 1 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I just get this, like, I get panic stricken and realize I have to start thinking about Monday. So not having Mondays anymore is what I'm looking forward to the most.
That's exciting. I'll be honest, I don't know what my time freedom would look like. It's really nice because I get to spend time with my wife and daughter now. I hope it continues to be like that as we reach those goals. It's one of those is that I love researching, reading, figuring, going into big projects like that. So, I mean, if I'm not with my current organization or somewhere else, I mean, I might just do that consulting or something, help people out with that. I thoroughly enjoy just doing deep dives and helping people out, figure out questions that they have. And like Andy's saying, is like I am all in on Grok and the other AI groups. And I mean, I've been doing a new project every week just because it's, keeps my brain stimulated and trying to figure out, and maybe just buy more properties that way. So
Yeah, Rosanna, I do see your question from Frank's channel, so we'll get right to it
mhm.
after this. But I just want to say, for me, it's if you think I make trouble now, wait till I'm actually financially free, and how
Oh
much
yeah.
I'm going to be messing around with you guys. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much doing, for the most part, kind of what my ideal, you know, I don't have that Monday blues. I think like Frank's talking about. I mean, I don't stress out about too many things. But I think for me on a bigger scale, it would be a little bit more. I don't know if I'd want to do it to myself that way, but it kind of be Zuber's, what he's doing in a sense, where I would love to have a little bit more regular schedule of either lives or interviews, or hopefully a group of us are all at that same financial freedom standpoint around the same time, so we could kind of be on a regular schedule. I think that'll be make it a lot more fun and more consistent and easier. And I always want to ask Zuber, and I never get around to, but I don't know how he does it every day to where his like what's his I'm pretty sure he has a schedule on. He wakes up and he looks at these whatever news outlets, or he checks on these specific people on X, and I want to know, like, how does he um, collect all his information every morning? Because when I start looking for information, a lot of times then I get veered off onto this other tangent or something. So I'm kind of just curious as to how he does it and how he gets his information every morning. And like I said, I don't know if I want to do it to that extent, but it'll be something like that where it's a little bit more like a routine, a set schedule, and then the rest of the day is done in a sense, right? But Rosanna's question is, she's lost. How did you know, Frank? I think, Frank, you touched on it, after a few short years, that you no longer needed 30 homes.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, for Cynthia and I, in our specific situation, if we need $6,000 a month to pay our bills, say, and when we're thinking about buying investment properties, our goal was to have, say, a 10% cash on cash return and have $200 positive cash flow per door. That's after setting aside for capex, maintenance, and vacancy. Um, that's after paying the mortgage payment, obviously, taxes and insurance. So if we needed to make $6,000 at 200 a door, that would be 30 properties. And the concept is that each year you raise your rents, and just say each year you're able to increase your cash flow on each property by $50. So in 5 years, that property is generating $250 more in cash flow than you started with. So now if you have 30 doors, that would be equivalent to $7,500 a month. So at the end of 5 years, it wouldn't take 30 doors to satisfy the $6,000. It might take 20 or even less, if it depending in the area that you're investing in. Like with Dion's crazy cash flow in Washington, you could do it a lot sooner. So depending in the market that you're investing in, I talked before about how we're basically in C-class neighborhoods. So that's what I mean. So in 5 years, you're not still going to only be making $200 a door. It's going to be increasing year by year. So, by year 5 or year 10, you could be done with 15 or 20 doors.
Yeah, great breakdown for Rosanna. I think a lot of it is just initially when you first get started, you're kind of seeing like the black and white of the numbers, and like you're saying 30 doors, cash flow this much. This is how much I would need. But as you start getting a few properties under your belt, then you start realizing, there's different, cash, like you're saying, rent may go up. Let's say once you start, maybe getting more properties, then your insurance comes down because you're working with this company and now you have more policies with them, or whatnot, right? Or even your property management fees, right, might go down because you have a bigger portfolio. So it's basically, there's different ways to increase cash flow, or the cash flow increases. But in the beginning, you're just looking at it like a simple number, like, hey, I have 30 doors, this much cash flow, and that's how much I would need. But as you start doing it, then you start realizing it doesn't necessarily have to be 30 doors. And I think that's what most people probably change to after, right? They want a smaller amount of units, but they looking at how much overall cash flow they need. And I think that's kind of what most people, I think, majority of the people have that vision, right? It's not, they don't want this huge portfolio, and they want kind of a lazy, like Dion, or a hands off approach. And like even Cody Davis, right? So he had all these doors, and now he's trying to transition to newer properties where it's just less maintenance, less headache, and whatnot, right? So it becomes easier. But you gotta get your foot in the door first, right? And they talk about the velocity of money, right? You gotta get your money working, and it starts snowballs, and then from there it starts moving, and then the more money you have, then you can move it around to whatever suits your strategy better, right? Yeah, Buzz. I think Buzz Toon was talking about me causing more trouble. He said, "Don't send him no Pink Panther memes on Sunday." Um, Andy says, "Frank, do you have a crew that you supervise? If you do, I can relate the Sunday PM blues. I supervise 20 to 25 daily, and if they're not on the same page, it can create obstacles."
Yeah, I don't have a big crew. It's all these years, it's only been myself and basically my cousin. He's been working with me for over 25 years. Um, but I was thinking after we mentioned that the first time, it's not always just necessarily work. Work is the main thing that comes up for the Sunday blues, but I think in general it's just something that you have to do, right? You have to do, because if you don't do it, it's going to cost you money or cause you trouble. Um, and I think when we're retired, we have less of those situations come up. I mean, Mark, I think you'll get some good, what would I call it, ammunition on this comment. But when we get older, those things are going to be doctor's appointments and, social security office visits and things like that that you have to go do. But I think it's just the fact that we don't have a choice. If we don't do it, things are going to get worse. So I'm thankful I never did grow my company to that extent. I'm thankful because these days, we talk about how, in general, most people these days don't seem to want to work. And I've always had trouble when I've tried to hire someone because either they don't respect your customers the way you do. It's my livelihood, so I'm going to treat everybody, and it's just my nature, but to treat everybody the best you can and provide a good service. But if it's not their company, they're just there to make an hourly wage. They really don't care until they get fired. So uh, I never wanted to grow my company because of that.
Ray also asks Frank, I'm realizing with just 2 Airbnbs, I may hit 5K or more. Have you ever considered that, Frank, doing Airbnb?
I guess it has crossed my mind, but it does seem like more work than I can. Ray seems to have good systems, by the way, and he seems to be having really good success with that. For me, it seems like a little bit of work. I think, you guys have probably heard about this garage rehab we did at our house. It was originally supposed to be Cynthia's craft room, and after we started putting it together, some people in the group had thought, well, that's really nice, you should Airbnb it. And even though it's right here on our property and it would be easy to clean and make ready and things like that, it was a little bit more than we could take on at the time. So I can see the benefits if you, and I guess it would take time to get your systems in place like Ray has, because I know he just opened up his one in Michigan, and he says that one's up and running really smoothly. So that's another thing we'd have to learn. When we first started investing, we were all over the place, or I was all over the place, because you hear all the great money people are making doing flips and wholesaling and short-term, mid-term rentals and stuff. But I think it was Zuber one day that kind of slapped me into place and just told me, just focus on one thing. And once you get that, then go play around with other stuff. But we're barely getting the long-term thing down. So it might be a little while before we can venture into something new.
Yeah, we got Derek tuning in from Instagram, mobile home parks. So he couldn't make it on yesterday or today, but we'll try to get him on next week. But he's doing a lot of cool stuff. I don't know if him and Joel connected because Joel had a deal in Florida in Derek's backyard. I don't know if anything came of that. And then Justin Camber's here on Instagram. So morning, Justin. Frank mentioned Justin being an agent in the Washington area also. So Andy says very well said, Frank. And you don't have to, like you said, Ray has a lot of great systems, but I also think Ray is a gadget tech guy, and he probably has a camera watching this camera, and he probably has extra cameras that he needs, but I think he enjoys that too, right? So he's also, I think he's having fun with that, and because he has the photography and videography background, I think he's also enjoying it from that standpoint. Like you're saying, right? Like your Airbnb kind of has to be unique, the photos, the presentation. So I think from that standpoint, he likes that, and also just the whole tech gadget side, like getting the door locks and the systems in place. So it's not for everyone, but definitely, you can generate a lot more cash flow with that. I know we're getting going for a little over an hour, so it's been fun. A lot of people tuned in. I think a lot of people got a lot of good information. I think hopefully Frank being in 4 or 5 different markets doesn't scare them off. But I think the biggest takeaway is that it's not too difficult to do out of state investing. I mean, yes, you have challenges, but even investing in your own backyard has its own challenges. So I think anyone out there in an expensive market or a market, that they're not happy with, I guess, they can always look at investing remotely and reach out to any of us, or just get around the right people that are doing it, and we can all help you. But anything else you guys want to just wrap up with before we sign off? Anything else you guys got going on this weekend? How's the YouTube channel coming, Harrison?
Been shooting a few videos, so I was Jeremy that says, like, I'm trying to get some done so that I can kind of have a portfolio to release. So it started off pretty well, but it's just like, once again, maybe priorities take precedent right now. So, but it's been exciting. I'm really excited to get more in.
Big Val says Frank is my hero. Yeah. And
I
then
think Val is awesome. Yeah, I
It's
was
awesome.
envious of you getting to meet him on your trip. That was really cool.
his voice is better in person.
Oh, wow. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
it's
I believe
amazing.
it.
Ray says, I'll be happy to share real numbers with you, Frank, as things progress. Once you have your systems, it's simple. Yeah. Yeah, Val and Andy are a lot of fun. Even Dividend Dave. Dividend Dave is a lot of fun too. I got to go check out his duplex. I met him at his duplex first. So
Oh, neat.
yeah. But Val's a super good guy. He appeared on Frank's channel before mine, so I'm a little hurt by that. Um, but yeah, anything else you want to wrap things up, Frank, before we sign off? Anything else you want to put out
Yeah,
there? Information.
yeah, maybe to raise comment, and you mentioned Justin Cambra in Washington, and we've connected with him through Dion. Well, I met Justin before, but I didn't realize he was an agent. So we connected with him, and he's starting to send us properties to look at. But one of the things that I liked about Justin was he was talking about some of his clients, and they had purchased properties that had extra space on the lot or something. So they are renting out part of the property for parking, or, for people, maybe companies have trucks and they need someplace to store them. So I like the way he goes into looking at properties, because I think that's something that could help Cynthia and I in retirement. And kind of going towards Ray's comment about the Airbnb, some of the properties that we're seeing do have extra units that could be used for Airbnb, and they're in places that Airbnb could do well. I would say, well, in my head, I think the places that we've invested in so far aren't good Airbnb locations, I guess. Uh, that's the only way I know how to put it. But yeah, I'm interested in learning anything that can help us have a comfortable retirement. So I appreciate everybody.
All right, we got two more questions, and to save a little bit of time, maybe I'll give. So I know BuzzTune probably talks to Frank, multiple times a week, so he probably knows Frank's thoughts on this. So for you, Harrison, BuzzTune asks, in a marriage, what are your discussions like around real estate? It's like talking about business, life, and everything else. You have monthly deep conversations.
Yeah, I would say that we have brief discussions every day, just see how things are looking at. She always asks if I see any new properties. Yeah, we do have monthly deep dives though, as we go through the numbers and everything, because she's a very good and meticulous with numbers, and that's going with our finances and then going along with the rental as well. And we just kind of go through it, make sure that everything's going right. I mean, thankfully we have an portfolio, so the numbers look very quick. I mean, so it's maybe an hour max of just going through that, and then how much we're setting aside for the next property. I think that's really how we discuss it. But I mean, just avoid talking about it all the time, because I mean, it's great. We're very passionate about it. Sometimes there's other things to talk about, and so we have our daughter, but we also have other things that we're excited about for the future. And so, I mean, just be sure to segment it. It's like, have rules saying, hey, we're not going to talk about it past 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. because we want to get to sleep, not stress out about anything. That's usually how we do it.
I would make fun about Mikey having to translate his discussions, but we'll leave that for another episode. Because what's up, Josh? Stopping by, but we'll end it on Rosanna's question. Then she's asking, which course did all of you take to start your real estate businesses, and like Lumberjack, Dion, or Zuber? So Frank, you go first.
Yeah, I think well, like in being in different markets, we took different courses. I think my first comment would be there, through these three that she mentions, there's a lot of free content. So I would be careful about paying for mentorship right off the bat. I know Dion's course is probably one of the most reasonable, and they all invest different ways. but Cynthia and I have probably spent about $10,000 in mentorships. We've taken the Brick by Brick Wealth course. Obviously, we're in Zuber. We took Lumberjack and Dion's. We took a course with Ashley Hamilton, we met through Bigger Pockets, and she's a Detroit investor. But one thing that I will say is that when we took them, I would say they were very affordable, $1,000 to $1,500. Now, if you try to get into those courses, it's several $1,000s. So, like Dion says, all of his content is on his channel. Everything that's in his course is on his channel. So go through that stuff first and then make your decision.
Yeah, I'd follow up with that. That's basically, of the three, who do you, I guess, vibe with the most and how you think about investing? I started with the Zuber. I've done Lumberjack's video course. I want to do his boot camp before he stops doing it. And then, yeah, Dion's also on my list and then Millennial Mike, if he ever does his. So.
Yeah, I think they're all great. I think you'll learn from either of them, but I think it kind of goes back to Frank's point. So, Dion's one is very reasonable. Even Zuber's one. The it's a little more like paint by numbers, like he says.
Yeah.
It's a little more structured. But there are some out there that are very expensive. So before you maybe jump into those, I would recommend just maybe joining the school one rental at a time community. It's $20 a month. You're not committed for more than a month, so you can always quit if you don't find information useful or you like. But I think that's one way to get involved in a community of a lot of different people. So Harrison's in there, Frank's in there, a lot of people in the chat are in there, but you'll find even other people that are in the school community. So like I mentioned earlier, you're interested in maybe South Carolina, I believe. Hunter Gore is in there. That's where he invests. But yeah, so like $20 a month, you can get around people that are talking about real estate, asking questions. Like a lot of the questions we probably talked about today pop up in the school community. You have different people at different points in their journey. So a lot of different feedback and information. And yeah, for $20 a month, I think it's a lot of good information there. And like Frank said, just tune into our channels, our lives, even Dion, everyone's information is pretty much out there, right? And you can find a lot of good free information. But yeah, just get around these communities, and yeah, like Frank, if Frank does connect with you, he has a Wednesday accountability call on Zoom, and yeah, it's a great place to be with people talking about real estate, and there's always this guy that comes in and makes trouble, but don't mind him. But it's a fun place. So yeah, I think we'll end it there. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Thanks fellas for doing this, and everyone have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.